My psycho sister just texted me. She's coming to my birthday party. Hey sis, long time no see. Got to town yesterday. I'll be there for your birthday party. Xoxo, Anna. I burned my damn eggs reading that message. It popped up from an unknown number while I was cooking, and I just stood there in my kitchen, phone in hand, smoke rising from the pan. I hadn't heard from Anna in 3 years. I sat at the table for a while, poking at my breakfast and trying to figure out what to say. My husband came in, already dressed for work. "How's the birthday girl?" he asked, kissing my cheek. I didn't answer, just showed him the message. He shrugged. "Maybe it's time you two work things out, babe." "It's not that simple," I said. I never told him the full story between her and me. He thought it was just the usual sibling drama. But Anna and I, we had full-on wars. Back when we were teens, Anna once cut my hair while I was sleeping because she noticed my curls had grown longer than hers. She couldn't stand me having anything she didn't. "How does she even know about the party?" I asked. "She still lives back in my hometown." He swore he didn't tell her. "Maybe someone on the guest list did," he offered. He then gave me another kiss and headed out to start his long commute into the city. Eventually, I replied to her message. I thanked her, probably more politely than I felt, and said it would be nice to have her here. Then I asked if she needed my address. A few minutes later, she texted back, but completely ignored the question. "I'll be a little late to the party, but I'll make it in time for the cake." I just stared at the screen, reread it a few times. All I could think about was that moment years ago. Waking up and seeing her by my bed, my hair in her hand, and her whispering in my ear, behind me, like always. I dropped my son off at school and headed to a store to buy drinks and snacks for the party, which was happening at my house. While I'm at it, I start bombing the guests with texts, asking if they know Anna. Every single one of them says no, which makes sense. She lives 300 miles away and is part of a past. I've gone out of my way to keep hidden from everyone. I also text my husband again, double-checking that this isn't some kind of surprise he planned for today or anything like that. He denies it and gets annoyed at how persistent I'm being. He doesn't get what it was like for me. Always behind Anna, with her obsessive, controlling personality. We were just a year apart, and especially in high school, she made it her mission to turn my life into hell. I was the artsy, socially awkward kid. She was the textbook mean girl. Popular, gorgeous, cruel. I had no idea what to expect from her now, and I needed some kind of clue. Calling my parents was out of the question, but then I remembered Greg. He used to be our neighbor, and one of the very few friends I had back then. I still had him on Facebook. I sent him a DM, and he quickly replied with his phone number. I called, and he was happy to hear from me. He started telling me about his life. Back in those days, he was probably the only openly gay kid at our school, and he went through a lot. We bonded over being outsiders. He still lived in the same house, inherited from his parents. I asked him what he knew about my sister, and I could tell from his tone right away. "You don't know?" he said, sounding hesitant. "She moved back into your parents' house, right next door. I've seen her on the street a couple times. She looked thin and kind of rough after rehab. Not like the queen bee from senior year anymore." "What do you mean?" I asked, confused. "And what about her husband, that lawyer?" Anna had married one of the most powerful attorneys in the state a few years back in a wedding so big it even made the papers. My parents, always the suck-ups, were proud beyond words. I wasn't invited. They split a few months ago. Not on good terms, from what I heard. Rumor is he was cheating left and right, and poor Anna got way too unstable, hooked on meds, just trying to cope with it. I went quiet, trying to process all of that. Greg sounded like he had more to say. He started to, but stopped, like he wasn't sure if he should. I pushed him. "Just say it." The weird thing is, he finally said, "That ex-husband, the lawyer, died last week." The papers didn't give much detail, just said it was gruesome. Straight nightmare fuel. Local gossip says it might have been some mob-related debt, but there were also rumors the cops were looking into your sister. Another bad memory hit me while I was setting out the plates and arranging the chairs ready for the party. I remembered a birthday when I was 11 or 12, and Anna, Angry that the special day was mine, pushed the cake off the table onto the floor. I lunged at her, furious, and my parents held me back, protecting her like always. They promised it had been an accident and made Anna apologize. But the next morning, on the school bus, she leaned in close and whispered that same phrase in my ear. Behind me, like always. When the first guests started arriving at 6, they found me barely put together and hard to talk to. I was too anxious, waiting for the moment she'd ring the doorbell. I made an excuse and went to my room, decided to call my parents. Only they could tell me more about how Anna was doing mentally. I hated calling those two, but I did it anyway and got no answer. I tried a few more times and still nothing. It was strange. My father, a bitter old retiree, never left the house and practically lived in that chair by the phone, watching whatever game was on TV. I called Greg again and asked if he'd heard anything about my parents. He said they were still there, living the same way as always. I asked if he could check whether the lights were on at their house. He said yes, but he was just finishing making his dinner and would call me back once he went over. I thanked him and went back to the party. Most of the guests had already arrived. Friends hugged me, handed me gifts, and enjoyed the playlist I had carefully built over the week. The only one missing was my husband, who because of the long commute would arrive a bit later, but not before stopping at the bakery we had hired to pick up the cake. I texted him, asking if he was on his way yet. I managed to relax a little, had a glass of wine, and started to enjoy the conversation. I even forgot about Anna for a few minutes until I saw Greg's name flash on my phone. I went to my room to answer. "No one's coming to the door when I knock," Greg said. He was standing outside my parents' house. Could they be out? I don't think so. The living room lights are on, and your dad's truck is in the driveway. That's weird. Can you look through the window? The curtains are shut. I can't see anything. What about the door? They used to leave it unlocked sometimes. I don't know if I should. I could hear him hesitate, probably wondering if it was okay to go into a house uninvited. But I'll try. I heard the sound of a doorknob turning. It was unlocked. For a few seconds, I only heard footsteps and Greg calling out for my parents in a loud voice. Then a sound I hadn't heard from him before. A scream of pure horror. "What happened?" I asked, gripping the phone. My God, what's there, Greg? Your parents are... There's blood everywhere." "What do you mean, Greg?" My anxiety was about to explode. I need to hang up. Sorry. I have to call the police now. I'll call you back. I heard another "My God" before the call suddenly ended. I tried calling him back several times, but the line was busy. Then a heavy knock on my bedroom door made me jump in shock. Someone left the cake at the door, a friend's voice said on the other side. "Do you want us to put it in the fridge?" I was confused. I stood up and opened the door, asking what she meant. My husband was supposed to bring the cake, and he would never just leave it at the door. "Someone left the bakery box on the front mat and went away," the friend said, watching my pale, frozen face. I rushed across the living room in panic. The other guests, who had been laughing a moment ago, now sensed that something was terribly wrong. The front door was already open, and, just as they said, the bakery's cake box was there. I walked up slowly. As I touched the ribbon, a red puddle began to form beneath the medium-sized box. I didn't need to open the whole thing to see my husband's hair inside it. My left hand flew to my mouth, like holding a scream. The right hand still held my phone, which buzzed suddenly. It was a text message from that number. From Anna. Behind me, like always.